Hey there, I hope you are doing well and I'm glad you are back. Let's continue working on making our settings PHP file smart enough to recognize which environment it's in. This is our default settings PHP file and my plan is to duplicate this file for each environment we're planning to cover. For that, let's prepare a separate directory for each environment. And now let's clean up our default settings PHP a bit. Obviously this file works fine for our local environment, so I'm gonna move this file into the local folder. And obviously we have to point Drupal where that file is. So I'm going to create file with exactly the same name. It's pretty clear we have to specify our PHP tag and we have to include our initial settings PHP file. So include. So what's the point if we simply include the same file? We need some sort of router that will include a settings file based on the environment we are at. So let's create one. So to make it work, I'm gonna use our server environment variables. In our specific case, I'm gonna use environment indicator variable. I will show you how to set it up whenever we bring our project up. But for now, we just simply get in that environment variable from the operating system and storing it into this environment variable. And probably you already have figured out that this environment variable will match one of the environment folders. So now we can simply include settings PHP file from the specific folder. Just like this. And now let's walk through the process once again. Drupal will use this settings PHP file which includes our router. This router gets server environment indicator variable from the operating system and uses that name to include our specific settings PHP. Whenever we get to the real server, I'll show you how to set that variable there, but for now let's set this one in Docker. And this is it. So let's bring our project up and let's see if it works. Nope, it doesn't, because I guess I have missed a folder. And now? And now it works. So we are at our local environment. But it's not that obvious what environment we're at just looking on the page. For that we can use environment indicator module. So let's check if it's activated. Yes, it is. So we have to add some configurations into settings PHP to display one interesting thing. So let's get there. And such as we're going to display specific line for specific environment, we have to do that in the target settings PHP file. In our case, it's local. I'll put it somewhere here just for now. And let's check what is going to happen. And we see that pretty orange line that says that we are at local environment. And also we have that small indicator in the favicon section. So you can name it as you want, you can change the background color, and you can change the foreground color, which is basically font. So now let's fix this line, because it looks obviously wrong. Now it's better. And also we have a line here that is not going to be changed depending on the environment. So let's move it to the router file. And now it's time for a serious conversation about security, passwords, and so on. Obviously, we do not want to store all our secrets in the repository. And actually, we already have a solution for that, this .env file. This env file won't be visible to the world on the real environment, such as production or staging or something else. And all our environments will have that specific .env file with the secrets in it. But PHP does not load those .env files by itself, so we have to make it happen. For that, I'm going to install one module. Now we have to create a PHP script that will load our .env file. I'm gonna place it here. Our newly installed Symfony's .env component. And now we have to create an instance of that .env class. So new .env, use boot env, and boot env. And now we have to specify a path to our .env file. Such as we are in the environments folder and our .env file one level up, so we can use that trick with the dir name. And now we have to add this file to the composer's autoload. So composer JSON. And now we have to force composer rebuild his own autoload file. So composer dump autoload. Okay, it is done, and now we can use _env array with the name of the variable from the .env file. So let's set that up. And now let's check it out. Okay, we're missing a slash here. So like this. And now it's time to show you how to check logs in our setup. For that, we can simply type make logs PHP. So what's going on? Looks like I have copied wrong variable names. So it has to be host and and this one has to be port. Yep. Yep, now it works. Super. Let's get back to our code. And obviously we do not want to store our hash salt in here. So let's move it somewhere there. And you know what? Obviously, these two lines won't be changed on any environment, so we can move them into our include settings PHP file. Let's take a quick look on our local settings PHP file. Looks correct, and now we can copy this file into production folder. Let's change a couple of things here. So it's going to be production. And this is going to be production as well. And also, if you remember, we have this container YAMLs file specified here. So let's copy that file as well. I'm gonna leave this services YAML on production as it is and change a couple of things here for the local. First of all, tweak debug, I'm gonna set to true. It makes tweak print some useful comments between HTML tags, such as file path it uses to print the template, some hooks, and some theme suggestions. I will show it to you in the upcoming videos, so don't forget to subscribe. I'm gonna enable auto reload as well, because it's pretty useful. Twig will automatically reload templates whenever we do some updates. Usually I keep this cache on because I have already enabled auto reload, and it helps to speed Drupal up a bit during this template rendering. Rest I'm gonna keep as it is now, and for production I'm not gonna change a thing. And now let's summarize it a bit. We've made our .env file available in settings.php, and we have created .include.settings.php that works some kind of a router that loads specific settings PHP based on environment we're at. And also we have added that visual indicator of the environment we are at. So why do we even need different settings PHP files for different environments? Well, obviously different environments come with different settings, resources, and so on. If you watched my previous videos, you'll know that I'm used to working on Mac and Linux. And there is a difference in how Docker operates in those systems. So I'm going to show you how to implement the same trick with Docker settings in our setup. Let's get back to the code. So first of all, we have to determine what operating system we're using at the moment. And we can do that with our make file. Let's define our env variable and set its value to Linux as default value. And now let's add a check what environment we are at. So I'm using uname command with the -s option to determine which type of operating system we are at. I use uname command with the -s option to display what type of kernel I'm currently at. Linux returns Linux and Mac OS returns Darwin. And that is a difference we're about to use to split our configurations for different systems. And now when we know what type of operating system we are on, we can split our Docker MK file into two and use each one for the respective system. So let's do that, and then I'll show you how to modify this makefile accordingly. And such as we are about to create some files that serve a specific purpose, I will create a dedicated folder for that. I'm gonna call it MK. And let's move our file there. Basically, this file will work for both operating systems. And the modifications I'm about to show you are not required on Linux. So basically, we're going to add some features to make our setup work faster on Mac. So we can agree that this file is our start point that will definitely work on Linux. So let's rename it to docker.linux.mk. Now let's duplicate it for Mac. I'm definitely not going to change everything, so some targets won't be touched, and we can create a third file, common, and move all of it there. So common. So basically I'm about to modify start and stop targets, so let's remove them from this file. And what stays here basically is a syntaxes sugar. So those are helpers that makes our life easier. So we do not have to type the full command each time we want to use it. And now we obviously have to do exactly the same for operating system specific files. So let's start with our Mac file. And the same for a Linux one. And now we have to include our common file in the beginning of our operating system specific files. So and now let's get back to the make file. Obviously, this include docker.mk won't work anymore. And we want to include a system-specific file. And we have a part of that name in the env variable. So we can include a specific file based on that variable. And that's gonna be this. So default value, check for the current operating system, and include a system-specific file. And now let's check if it even works. Oh yeah, we have to specify a subfolder for each include statement. So, and now, okay, it works. So let's talk about modifications for Mac. So on Mac, Docker relies on a Linux virtual machine to run containers due to the difference in the underlying operating systems. This leads to performance issues, especially with the file system syncing between the host and containers, which can be a way slower compared to running Docker natively on Linux. Using mutagen with Docker on Mac solves that issue. Mutagen is another app we're about to use, and I won't be showing you how to install it because you can do it by your own. There are a ton of information all over the internet. So the first link in Google, and here you have all the information you need. And even more, you have docs, you have blog, you have some kind of community links, so feel free to investigate that by your own. And obviously I have mutagen installed locally, so I'm just gonna be showing you how to use it. Those connections from the host to container in mutagen terms are called sinks. So let's add a label of what we're about to do. The actual mutagen command is mutagen sync create with the parameters name, which stands for the name of the sync. In this case, I'm using project name -php and the label, which is project name. Then we have to specify what we're connecting and where. So what? It's going to be our root folder. So pvd. And where is a bit more complex, but still pretty easy. So what do we have here? It's a service provider, containers internal user, @sign, container name, and a path. We want to connect our from to. And also there is one more pretty useful argument to the mutagen command, sync mode. In some specific cases, we may end up in the situation we modified the same file on both sides of the sync, on the host and in the container. By setting this sync mode to two-way resolved, we allow mutagen to resolve those conflicts by its own. On Mac, this start command won't work as expected, so I won't keep it here. And obviously, as we start our syncs with an up target, we have to shut them down with a stop target. And the command is pretty easy. So, mutagen sync terminate, and the name of the sync we have specified in the up target. And of course, we have to remove the native Docker's volume from the Docker Compose YAML. So I'm going to comment it out and let's check how it works. So make up. Oh yeah, we're not allowed to use underscores for the names. So let's fix it. So we can use a built-in tr function that allows us to replace one character with another. So let's check it now. And now it works. And I'm going to add one more helper target that allows us to see what's going on with our syncs. Let's check it out. Make syncs. So we see our host path and the status. We see our container information and we see a status. Let's stop our containers for now. Oh yeah, we have to apply the same tr trick to the stop target. That's it. Let's check. Oh yeah, I forgot to use shell in front of tr. And now and stop. Yep, it works. And obviously this magic won't work on Linux, because as you remember, on Linux, we do not use mutagen, and we have removed our volume from the Docker Compose YAML, which means no files in the container, which means nothing is working. So let's fix this complication as well. Docker Compose allows us specify as many YAML files as we want. Basically, it merges everything together and runs what it ends up with. So I'm gonna duplicate this one. And let's start with the Linux first. So I'm going to remove everything except volumes and some Linux specific lines. So let's get to it. So I'm keeping only those services I'm going to bind files to. And now in the same way I'll create a Mac version of this file. And now it's time for us to talk about that magical performance issue. And basically what slows us down is a PHP container because of that file sync. And that's exactly the issue we are trying to solve with the help of mutagen. Rest of the containers won't affect much on the performance if we use that built-in bind mount. So having all of that set, the only one container we care about is PHP. So now I'm going to remove the PHP volume from the Darwin specifically YAML file, but I'll keep all that configuration lines for Xdebug because they are different for Mac and Linux. Okay, and I guess we can completely remove MariaDB because except volumes, which is we are not about to change, we have no difference for any environment specific file. And now let's get back to the Docker Compose YAML original file. And here I will keep those lines that are exactly the same for both operating systems and will remove those that are not. I'm going to keep this environment indicator here for now and we'll talk about it in a minute. And now let's talk about environment indicator. For the project without Docker on production or staging or somewhere else, I keep this environment indicator here because it's almost all the time the same, local, and I use Docker only for my local development. So there is no point of moving this line into those two files and keep exactly the same line in both of them. And for now we have something else to do in our operating system specific make files. So let's get to it. Here we have to specify files we need Docker to load. So the parameter is -f and the path to the file, but basically we can only specify a name of the file because we are executing Docker on the same level with the file. So the first one is this one and the second one. And the second file is our operating system specific one. So let's check if it works. Oh yeah, up has to go after the files. So let me move it. And now it works. Let's check our volumes. So make syncs. Connection state connected and watching for changes. So everything is working as expected. And basically this is it. So let me clean up a bit a file structure. A few words about this default folder and files it contains. In the next video, I will cover a Git part of the course, so don't forget to subscribe not to miss it. And for now, I will tell you that this .env file and this one operating system specific compose YAML file won't be a part of the Git repository because it stores some sensitive information. This specific file has all the default credentials such as username Drupal, password, and there is nothing bad with it, so I'm gonna keep it as is except the hash salt. I'm gonna cut a bigger part of it. And of course, production version of this file will have all the real credentials, so real database user, host, password, and so on. That's why we won't keep this information in Git. And these default files are just the presets, so we can just copy paste them and easily start our project. And I guess this is it for today. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. It will really help this channel grow faster. Take care.